Hola. Welcome to a swimming hole outside of Mexico City. What a great place. Brings us to our recipe for today. We're going to try our own version of tamales. We call it the first time ever Homestead Tamale. Una más, por favor. Well, after trying some real tamales, we realized, hey, we can do a variation on this. It probably tastes pretty good. So, first thing we did, we went in the refrigerator. What do you have for leftovers? We had some chicken. Shredded that all up. Went out to the store, bought us some corn husks. There's about 300 in a bag for $3. And they last forever. You want to go ahead and pour hot water. Mine was boiling. Put it on, covered it, let it sit for about an hour. And that will soften them back up, make them pliable enough so you can make them around for the wrapper for your tamale. Just take out what you need. In this case, we used 15. Once you get them all in the water, you want to go ahead and cover them up, keep that heat in, and just set them aside somewhere where they won't get knocked over for the next 45 minutes to an hour. Once the chicken was getting softened up, Beth went ahead and added some peppers and some onions. Mix just about anything you've got in the refrigerator back in it. Make it nice, let them cook through, you'll get a nice juice going. You could do this with pork, you could do it with beef, I don't know, maybe even fish, who knows. But like a taco, we found you can just put just about whatever you want in it. And that's what we're doing for our homestead version. As the food's cooking, go ahead and get out the masa, Mexican corn flour. Now, normally 6 cups of masa would make about 50 tamales. We're only going to make about 15 to try this recipe out first, so I'm going to cut it down to 2 cups. While I'm doing that, Beth is making a chili sauce, just something we had extra. Some leftover taco sauce, little things, anything, mix it together with the chicken, make it nice and spicy. You can see it's all done in the back there. Once the chicken's finished and you like the sauce and the taste, set it aside for a while. There's my 2 cups of masa. Then next to that, I've got a cup of the reserve liquid from the chicken. I use that to moisten up the masa, as you'll see, and it adds a lot of flavor. So if you're using chicken, use the chicken mix, beef, the beef mix, so on. This is a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of baking powder. And I'm going to use about 1/3 of a cup of lard. I like lard instead of butter. It definitely gives me more of a biscuit, chopped in flavor. Plus, if you do your research, you'll find lard is actually healthier than butter, believe it or not. So go ahead and mix the salt and the baking powder in with your masa. Then go ahead and add that to a good sized mixing bowl. Then get your 1/3 of a cup of lard or thereabouts. Add that to your masa. And get in there with your hands and start crumbling and mixing. You'll see it crumble as you mix, and it'll start to get a grainy texture. You're looking now for kind of a grainy beach sand look. Not really wet, but moist. I'm going to start, I've got a cup of that reserve liquid. I'll start pouring it in a little at a time as I mix it. As I add the mixture, I'm starting to look for what I call stiff mashed potatoes, really stiff. Well, it's taken just about the whole cup, and it's getting to that point. You can see it's taking on the color of the mix, and it's getting nice and stiff. To the point now where you just have to cover it, set it aside, and forget about it. Let it sit, let it rest. So all the prep is done. Now it's time to start the assembly. We have our meat. We have our dough. It's rested a good 15 minutes. And we have our corn husks still simmering and sitting in that water, in that hot water. Yes, it's still hot. That's it, the 3 parts to any good tamale. So go ahead and get out your first wrapper, lay it flat, open it up, top to bottom. 2 to 3 tablespoons of dough. The good masa, it will be very, very stiff, I keep a little cup of water next to me. I find that keeping my palms moist, keeping my hands moist, makes it a lot easier to work the dough. It adds just that little bit of extra to it. Now you're going to go for a rectangular shape. Remember, this is going to be the outside of the tamale. So the filling's going to go in the middle. And you're going to want it wide enough so that you can, when folded, you can pinch the top halves together and seal it so that the filling doesn't fall out or leak out while you're cooking them. You don't need a lot of filling. I found usually a tablespoon or two, more than enough. It depends on how big you cut your meat. We learned on this one that we could shred it a little bit more, make it a little bit smaller for next time. When everything's centered, you want to bring the sides up together. And those two sides, bring up a top and you want to pinch them. Pinch them together so they seal. And then you want to go ahead and roll it. Now remember, it's not a cigar. You don't want to roll it too tight. You want to leave some room in there. When it cooks, it'll dry. And that's how you'll know it's done, when you see the dryness. Okay, let me finish up everything that's here. And as I say, I came out with 15 altogether. Now normally you're going to use a pot that they can stand up in. You want to fill the pot with water to within an inch and a half to no more than an inch from the top of the tamale. You don't want to get the inside of the tamale wet. So you need a pot tall enough for them to stand in. Now a pot this size normally will hold about 50 tamales from what I guesstimate. My little 15 isn't going to really stand up too well in there. Time to get creative. So I took 3 at a time, stacked them into a little stack, tied them together so they'd be a little more sturdy. And I stood them in the pot. I took 2 little pint mason jars, set them on each side to brace them and hold them up, and then filled the water. And again, don't go too high. You don't want that water to boil over the top and get into your masa. It'll wreck it. So turn on high. Let them come to a boil and set them down to simmer for an hour. When you look down at the tamale after an hour, the tamale itself, the masa, should be pulling away from the corn husk. And that's how you know it's done. And it's just a matter of, I unwrapped a few. Put some more of my homemade special hot sauce on there. And it's time for the taste test. Not bad. They're surprisingly a lot better than I thought they'd be. Tamales Americanized. So that about wraps it up for another edition of Homestead Healthy. Here from beautiful Mexico City. Homestead Tamales, maybe not completely authentic, but definitely an item to make and freeze and to keep on hand. We hope you try it for yourselves and see just how great it is. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell your friends about us. We have a lot of sunsets ahead and look forward to bringing you more videos. Leave us a comment below and let us know how you like things so far. And as always, please give us that thumbs up. So for now, this is Bob.
And Beth.
And please take care, God bless, and thanks for joining us today on Homestead Healthy.